when you are following God, obedience is movement, but it may not feel like motion. It may not look like motion, right? Sometimes it's just staying in position, and that position is yieldedness and a heart posture to believe that He will do what He promised you He will do. Hello and welcome back to the Raven Nole Show. I'm your host, Raven C. Nole, and I am so glad that you are here with me on today. By the time you hear this episode, I will officially be a Texas resident. That is so crazy to say. That sentence, just saying that I will be a Texas resident, still feels very surreal. Not because it came out of left field or anything of that nature, not because God didn't reveal, to my family and I that we would be moving to Texas, and that it was His will for us to go, but because the journey, the journey to get to Texas has been something else. And so in today's episode, I want to talk to you just a little bit more personally about my journey and share what it looked like when God told me and my family to get ready to move and how we said yes. And honestly, I'm not even just going to talk about the move itself, but just the entire process, the wilderness season we had to walk through, the years of holding on to a word when nothing looked like, it was coming forth as promised. I pray that as I share on this episode today, that it gives you language for your own journey, because saying yes to God, it is absolutely beautiful and it comes with many blessings, but it's also costly. And sometimes the yes that you give to God leads you straight into a season that stretches every single ounce of you. Okay. So we're going to talk about it on today. Now, just to give you kind of a backdrop, like I said, it is surreal thinking about, I'm currently recording this episode in Chicago, and that when this episode airs in July, that I'll be in Texas. And so just to give you a little bit of a backdrop, the first time I ever thought about Texas ever, had never been there, was back in 2018. This was 3 months after my husband and I got married. We flew down to Texas for my husband's doctoral graduation. Okay. Had never been to Texas before. And I remember while we was there, I was just looking around and just enjoying myself. And I randomly said, I remember this vividly. We were walking through a outlet mall area, or an outdoor mall area. It was nighttime. And I said to my husband, I said, if I ever moved anywhere, I'd move here. I had never, when I said ever, felt that about any other place I had been to outside of Chicago. I've been in Chicago my entire life. I've visited, many states, many locations, and I've never said that. I've never felt that way about anywhere that I've gone. Chicago is what I've always known. It's been home. And at that time, honestly, when I said that while we were in Texas, it really wasn't that deep. It wasn't even spiritual in my mind. But looking back, I know that moment probably was something that I was tapping into prophetically and just did not know it. But it really was just kind of something I said. I didn't think too much into it. I didn't think about it again really after that. And I kind of let it go. We were there. We had a great time. Food was good. Weather, of course, was hot. It was in June, very different than Chicago. And I didn't think much of it again, honestly, until probably around 2021 or 2022. And that is when my husband and I started to journey with God. We had left an organization that we had been a part of for a very long time. And the Lord, started to speak to us about what was next. And we were really trying to figure out where we're going, what's happening, what are we doing? And so the Lord started to speak to my husband and I about our next season. And so, mind you, I said this was back in like 2021. I believe it was 2021, not 2022. And we are currently in 2025. Okay, so let me, that should let you know right there that we have been journeying with God. And so around that 2021, 2022 mark, God started to confirm to us Texas in so many different ways. I mean, we got so many different prophetic words from different people, dreams, prophetic signs. We were experiencing things like left and right. And so we knew without a shadow of a doubt, okay, that he was sending us to Dallas. It wasn't, anything that was casual on our mind anymore after so many confirmations, so many, just prophetic signs from God. And then he was speaking to my husband and I directly, outside of receiving insight from others, he was telling us this directly as well. So it was no longer just this casual thought of, maybe we will, maybe we won't. We knew that it was God's instruction, okay? And even though we knew at that time, after so much confirmation, that he was sending us, and we knew that that word was real, we didn't pack up and move right away, right? Because even though you get a prophetic word, you still want to fully understand the timing of God. And oftentimes, once you do get that prophetic word, it's a journey. And so for us, that journey was a little longer than expected, okay? And it was years of preparation, years of internal preparation, spiritual preparation, letting go of timelines, letting God deal with things we didn't know we were still holding on to. And by the time, we finally did give God a yes, because it in all honesty, even though we had received a lot of prophetic words and insight, it can still be a struggle to choose to walk in such unfamiliar territory. My husband and I are both born and raised in the Chicagoland area. And so moving and deciding to go across the country and really wanting to make sure that this was a God thing, it can take some back and forth in the heart. And so by the time we really did say yes to God, and we were like, okay, there's no turning back. We're going to go forward. We're going to do this. We expected instant breakthrough. Okay. We thought, okay, God, you've been telling us this. We're going to do it. We're going to go forward in it. We're like, okay, boom, breakthrough, door open right away. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. But instead, we entered into a wilderness like season. Okay. And it wasn't because we missed God or, we missed an open door, but it was because God needed to continue a work in us that we thought maybe was done or we didn't realize was necessary. Okay. And so God said, there's a work that still needs to be done before I plant you again, before I send you out. There's still some things I want to work on your heart, on your walk with me, all these different things. And so walking through the last few years and through this exceedingly, okay, outstandingly exhausting wilderness season, I have learned a few things. And so in this episode, I not only wanted to kind of get you up to speed about me and my journey, I also want to share with you 3 things that I learned from saying yes to God that I think would be very beneficial and helpful to you as well as you journey. Maybe you are also in that space, in that place where God has promised you something, but you're like, God, where's the promise, right? I've been waiting. I've been looking. I've been wondering. I've been praying. I've been fasting. Okay. How much longer do I got to hold on to this promise? Right. I've been there. I've experienced it. I totally understand what you're going through. And so I want to share with you just 3 things that I have learned from saying yes. All right. So number 1, obedience won't always feel like movement, but it is. So sometimes obedience will look like just being still. Okay. Sometimes it looks like holding on, even when you'd rather pivot or you rather move forward. And God's like, no, pause, just stand there for a couple more months, years, just stay right there. I know you got to hold on to this promise. And sometimes, it's just waking up and trusting God for one more day. Like I'm just holding on again and again and again. And I'm holding on to the promise that you've given me, even when that promise actually feels far away. And so when you're following God, movement doesn't always look like being in motion. I know that it can feel like, okay, I'm stuck. I'm not moving. What's happening? I don't feel like there's any forward. I'm not going forward. I'm not seeing myself progress forward. And so sometimes we think that, okay, he doesn't see me, or maybe I've done something wrong, or maybe it was me. Maybe I thought this was what God was saying, but it wasn't what God was saying. And so sometimes we can be in those seasons, in those times, in those moments, in those thoughts in our head. But when you are following God, obedience is movement, but it may not feel like motion. It may not look like motion, right? Sometimes it's just staying in position, and that position is yieldedness and a heart posture to believe that he will do what he promised you he will do. I know doesn't feel good to hear. And, as visual individuals, right? We're human beings. We see things. We're like, everything that we encounter is visual. Sometimes we want to see that movement as well. But I have to remind you that God doesn't always work how we work. And a lot of times we may count ourselves out or count out, what God is doing because we don't see that motion in the movement. But I guarantee you that obedience is movement, even when it doesn't look like it. Now, another thing that I've learned about saying yes to God is that yes doesn't guarantee comfort. Okay. It absolutely does not guarantee that you are going to be comfortable, but it always, hear me, your yes will always lead to growth. When my husband and I said yes to God, we walked into one of the most stretching seasons of our lives. We walked right into a season of being hidden. We walked right into a season of intense healing and internal confrontation and forgiveness and surrender. I mean, we walked into pressure, okay? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and we didn't realize that yes would strip us bare. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Did all kind of works in and outward on us, and it's been real and it's been challenging. I can't lie, but in that is where God begins to grow something deeper in us. It's when the discomfort of it all, everything that you're experiencing, everything that you're walking through, discomfort mentally, discomfort emotionally, just discomfort physically, just discomfort, right? You don't realize that you are being built for the next season of your life. And so just hold on to that yes that you're giving God. It may not feel good, it may not be comfortable, but I guarantee you that God is working in the small moments that you don't even realize he's working in to grow you for something that you have yet to see. Now, the third thing that I've learned when it comes to saying yes to God is that the word, the prophetic word, the dreams, the things that he's told you in your devotion time, they will be confirmed again when the time is right. Here's what I mean by that. So when God spoke to me in that 2021, 2022 year, it was clear. What he said to me was very clear. I didn't question it. I knew that I had heard God. He was very clear with his communication to me. But then there were months after that of God not really giving any more detail. There was, okay, we're sending you to Texas, confirming it, having dreams about it. I'm speaking to you directly about it. There's prophetic words coming. And then there were months after that where we heard nothing else. There were no details from there, right? There was no more communication as to how we're going to get there. When are we going? What does this look like? Why are you sending us? Right. And so it was years of just wondering and questioning God. And in all of that, I had to learn how to trust him and trust what he said, even in my own confusion, because God's not confused. I was confused because I'm like trying to find an answer that he hasn't given me yet, right? I'm trying to put the pieces to the puzzle together, but he's like, I gave you a piece. I didn't give you the whole puzzle yet. Chill out. Be patient. You're going to be all right, right? And so in my humanity, I'm trying to do my best to figure it out. And so that leads to more confusion. Even in my disappointment about the timeline, right? The Lord told us this back in like 2021. And I'm in 2025 and I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, okay, God, what's going on? So there was disappointment around the timeline. But you see, a few months ago, what I realized when it comes to God's timing, an opportunity opened up for my husband and I. And so when you think about 2021 and you think about 2025 and the opportunity, the rest of the puzzle piece is what came together for us. And God was like, now it's time. In my humanity, God gave me a word. He gave me a piece of the puzzle, not the full picture. but I was trying to figure it out. I was trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so that made me more confused, more discouraged, more disappointed because I was trying to do it in my own strength. But I had to realize that God may have given me a word then, but his word was going to come back forth and he was going to confirm what he said to me, not in my timing, but in his timing. And so there's a greater level of surrender and yieldedness I needed in my heart in order to trust him. And so I've learned through this journey, okay? I've learned through this journey that God will let you know when the time will come. He'll let you know when the open door is open, right? When the door is opened up to you and you don't have to force it, try to figure it out, try to go get you a key made. You ain't got to try to knock it down. We don't need no hammer, no screw, no nothing. You just need to allow the Lord to give you the first piece of the puzzle and then watch as he confirms his word again to you when the time comes. So here we are, okay? By the time you hear this, we're officially here in Texas. There's so much more that I want to share, but this is enough for right now. And I can honestly say that I'm ready. I'm ready for what God wants to do in and through my family in this region. I'm ready to build what he's assigned for us to build. I'm ready to plant roots here. I'm ready to go deeper. I'm ready to be fully present. I'm ready to make an impact. But more than that, I'm just excited because I'm not just stepping into this new chapter of life. I'm excited because God has, he's been faithful to his promise. He's been faithful to help us endure even the ups and downs of holding on to a word and having faith. He's been faithful to just be who he is. And I know that as we've transitioned and as we've crossed over, I'm still in Chicago right now. But when I hear this episode go live, I'll be in Texas, and it's not a new chapter that I'm walking into. It's a whole new book, because what came before this moment, what came before this transition, what came before this crossover, that book is closed. And it was necessary. That season of life, those years of life, they were beautiful, they were full of lessons. But now in my life, we are in the sequel. Okay, it's a new assignment. There's a new level of faith. There's a new capacity to carry what's been placed in my hands, in my husband's hands, in my family's hands. And so I just want to encourage you, if you are holding on to a word, if God has been whispering to you to move, to go forward, or he's been nudging you to shift or release something or to trust him in a new way, I just want to encourage you to give him your yes, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it costs you everything that's familiar, everything that's comfortable to you, because on the other side of your yes is a life you didn't even know you were ready for. So let me know in the comments what part of this episode hit home for you. And if you're in your own wilderness, journeying to your promised moment, I'm standing with you. I'm praying for you. And I'm believing that God is going to do what he promised. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update about me, about my shift, about my transition, about my goodbye to Chicago and my hello to Texas. I would love to be able to connect with more women in the Texas area. I'm so excited for what God is doing, like I said, in and through my life, through my husband's life, through my family's life. And I cannot wait to see what God does next. I'm believing, praying, holding on to just the same thing for you. Until next time, keep thriving and making an impact.